Hello, thank you all for coming. I'm going to talk to you about forms, Symfony forms. My name is Jules Pietri. I work at SymfonyLive since this summer. I used to work as a seller at the shop named Fnac in France for 9 years before starting building websites and finally discovered Symfony and starting to contribute to it. So you may know me as Hair Dude on GitHub. And as many developers, I love Symfony. It's just good to build some web applications with it. And as many, I lose some hairs trying to use forms. So I'm going to try to share with you some tricks I've learned along the way. If you don't know Bernard Schusek, I really recommend you see his talks he made on the form. He's the one who built it from scratch, so you really should check his blog and talks. You could learn really nice tricks. Besides the docs, he's very wide, and you don't know where to look. This is a good starting. He says, make simple cases simple and make complex cases possible. So we think of something, if our models get complex, more complex, the forms will also do. But sometimes we just get really complex and we question ourselves, is it our codes? Maybe we don't understand right how it works. Where does it come from? So to analyze this, we will start with a simple use case we surely face in the past, a many-to-many relationship, and what it implies. So we will discover some tricks along the way. So if it reminds you something, it's normal. This is a copy-paste of the Symfony demo and the post. Can you read it well? It's not too small? OK. So there is basically some fields for the post and the post type for each field, which receives the data from the field and set it when you submit it. So it's kind of simple. And a simple action. We build our form types from this, and it with these 2 lines, it manages all the things for us. But we need some tags. So we start to add it to the post entity with a many-to-many relation, ship, and a unique entity. No, sorry, this is a tag entity. We need it to be unique by its name and not blank, so we don't have a duplicate. No need for setters in this case because the tag don't need to get called a set post on it. And be careful to don't call it twice when you add a post. Adding the tags on the post is pretty simple too. Just define the many-to-many relationship. And these 2 lines ensure the post is the owner of the relation. Ship, again. And we just need a tag type to represent how we want to submit our tag in the database. We just need 1 field, the name, and we're done. The tag class in the option data class will help the form to build from nothing a new tag entity and iterate it with the field. So then we just need to add this tag type in our post type. We're using here a collection type because we get a collection or an array of tags. And for each entry of this array, we need to assign it to a tag type. And we want to also add tags and create them if they don't exist yet. Prototype data allows to iterate the tag with some objects, but you shouldn't do this in this case because we want it to build it, not pre-populated if it doesn't exist yet. So our constraint here is we want it to be unique. So if you have a collection type with many add fields, many text fields, we don't know yet if the tags exist, so we get an error, and this is not very friendly. To avoid that, we can use an entity type instead. Entity type is a cool type because it extends the choice type, but just with a class option, it will get all the entities for us and propose as a choice list the entity. So here, multiple true allows to select many tags, and there will be pre-selected if there was already bind to the post. And the choice label allows to have a meaningful text to choose our tags and not their IDs. The entity type is very special because it uses the choice type configuration and defines the choice loader. And so all the data submitted is by their IDs, not by their name. So it's kind of optimized. And on submission, it will only fetch the ID submitted and not all the entities. So it's kind of a great performance improvement, which came with Symfony 2.7, not before. So using a choice value, for example, would break this optimization. You should not use choice value in this case. So the problem is we can select some choice, some tags existing, but we cannot add some with the choice type, like we do with the collection type. So this is a way to manage choosing some existing ones and creating some new ones. Currently, when you define the first argument of add function, you define the property path in the same time. It means when you said add tags, the form will automatically calls get tags and set tags on it. But if we want a different name, we could use the property path option to ensure this is the right call on it. So new tags, however, doesn't exist as a field in our entity. So we need, this is mandatory here, to set the mapped option to false. So the data mapper won't call set new tags on the entity as it doesn't exist. So if we have an unmapped field, how can we update the post? How can we tell the form to use it? Many of you will think about form events, but which one? Pre-submit is cool because we get the submitted data, that's what we need. But post-submit won't give us access to this data anymore. So this is definitely not the choice to make here. Instead of that, I really advise you to use empty data. Entry options is the options that will be passed to every tag type for each entry of the collection. And empty data will, as we didn't pre-populate our field with a new tag, it will create it on submission. And then it's just a simple callable who gets the form, in occurrence, the tag type is passed to the callable. So we can call on the tag type, get the field name, and get its data. So here is the tag name. And we set it just on the tag set name. Form get parent on the tag type, in this case, will call the collection type. So we need to call 2 times get parent to get the higher level of the post type itself, and not the collection. So when we got the post, we just can add the tag, and it's done. This is really cool. And then it just works. Okay, this view is missing the add button, but currently collection type implies some JavaScript to allow the client to add dynamically some new fields to create some new tags. And this is cool now because we see the existing tags and we can add one if it's not in the list. But it's not very good from a UX side. We'll try to improve it. And there is a big problem with, I don't know if you use PHP 7 yet and if you met this issue, but if the field is empty when you submit it, the form will call set tags, set name on the tag with an empty value. And this will break your code and you will get this error because you cannot pass null. Even if strict saps is off, null will break the PHP code. And this is really bad. So to avoid that, there is many possibilities. So this is when we define strict type, scalar string type, the new possibility with PHP 7. And PHP 7.1 will bring the nullable type. So it can solve this issue, but we don't want to wait for this to come to solve it. So there is another way, is to set null by default in the signature of the function, but it means changing our models and how it works, and the form should not imply to modify our model for this. So maybe we can use and find another way to avoid this, this ugly thing. Again, empty data. Empty data is a solution, but it only works on Symfony 3.1 because the form component is made a way that when you don't submit a data for a field on submission, it converts, it's an empty string on the start, but it converts it to null every time, and we cannot interfere with that. A text type is really particular for that case because it's a string, but it gets null, and it shouldn't. So the other type, number type, integer type, won't have this problem, but empty data as empty string before Symfony 3.1 won't work because in Symfony 3.1 we introduced a text type which implements the data transformer interface and transform on demand when this option is set, transform the model value from null to an empty string. We need a transformer to do that. And it's out on the box since this version. It's kind of boring to set this option on every field that has a text type, or or URL type, or mail type, which extends the text type. So if you want to do it globally for your forms, you should use a form type extension. It's really cool for this. You define a global configuration for specific types thanks to the get extended type method. You really need to define the form type extension as a service because otherwise, the component won't know its existence. Form types are called thanks to their class name, but form type extension cannot. So this is really mandatory. And then it just works, but with all PHP versions. I saw this on Twitter this morning. Really funny. So what I'd like to have is one field, and with all my tags for this post, and I want it smart enough to know if a tag does not exist yet, I want the form to create it for me. So how can we achieve this? We were kind of there, and with this simple need, we'll get this need to have this field like this. We'll get here in a fraction of a time. So to work around this problem and replace all these fields and this unmapped thing, etc., we'd like to have one type, which is its responsibility to make it. We don't extend the entity type here because entity type is already an extension of the choice type, implementing its own logic to build a choice loader. Instead, we are going to build our own entity type, which I call it tags type, with a plural to make a difference. And this type will need the repository to fetch, get, and populate the tags. So a type which needs such service should be a service too to get the proper injection. You just need to tag it as a form type, and calling its class name as usual will do the work. So our tags type must implement choice loader interface. You could separate the class, but in this case, don't see any use for having it in separate class. So we need to implement this interface so we can populate the choices option ourselves by calling load choice lists, load choices for values, and load values for choices. So load choice list is basically the method will return an array choice list, as does any choice type or entity type. We need to pass it the data and a callable which transforms each data in its string value. The string value is the one will be submitted by the form. Entity type set it by default to the ID. This is why if you change the value callable, you won't call the ID anymore, and the entity type won't be able to optimize the fetch. This method is not, will not be called in every way. If you submit the data and it's valid and redirect then, you don't build the view. And if you don't build the view, you don't need to show all the choices in the view, and then this call is never made. So we really have a nice optimization here. The load values for choices is called by the transformer. The choice type is the view transformer who transforms the value to the choices. So the transformer just calls this method on the array choice list. So we receive our choices entities. If it's empty, we can optimize it by returning by using an early return of an empty array. But if the choices is loaded, we can call it on the choice list. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, we just loop through the choices and call tag get name ourselves. So it really optimizes things and return them. The load choices for values is a bit more tricky because you expect to receive string values, and if it's not, you should return an array. So the process is working. What can I say more about this? Yeah, the repository will call any name and find the corresponding tag. And if it doesn't exist yet, this is where we can create our tag. This is the hook, and this is how we can simply add on the choice type. So we need also a transformer because we want one string separated with commas, and we have an array. So transform will always receive the array of values, and we should return the string. And reverse transform should do the opposite. So transform is simple. If it's empty, just return an empty string, otherwise implode. So reverse transform should throw an exception because this is a check for the submitted data. If it's not a string, you should really throw this exception, so it will map an error on the field, but won't break your code. Pay attention to this explode, which does not hold the space as does the implode, because we are not sure the user will separate with comma and spaces. So we just need to separate by the comma, but this implies to be careful on the load choices for values and trim the name to be sure that the entity will be fine. Then we just need to override the choice type configuration by setting the choice order. It's just our entity which implements the interface, and multiple to true, because multiple to true in the choice type will define which transformer to call. It can be choice to value transformer or choices to values transformer, and in that case we want choices, an array, converted to some tags. So we also need a model transformer, because actually the choice type get an array, but we pass a collection, doctrine collection. There is the doctrine bridge who provides out of the box a transformer to do this. It's the collection to array transformer, so we just need to call this, and that's the view transformer, so it does the work. The view transformer will be called after the view transformer of the choice type, which is the choice to values transformer. This is why we receive in our transformer. In that case, we receive already the values and not the tags themselves, because the choice type already transforms them. OK, just by defining multiple to true, the choice type in his method finish view will add the braces at the end of the name, so the form submit an array of names. But in our case, we don't want to do this because we want to submit a string and transform it later. So we have to override the full name set by the choice type and cut out the braces. And if we want to use a simple text field on a choice type, we should override his view too. So every form types take inheritance of the templates. It means if you build the post tags underscore row or widget or label, it will be called first. If it's not present, it will call tags. If it's not present, it will call choice, and form. So actually, if we define a tags template, we have to build it ourselves, but we would like to use the text type because it's kind of the default, so we would fall back on the default instead of making again a form same. So we can just override the choice and process to the fallback to the default template, just like that. So we were there, and now we're here. Very much simple, because our tags type hold all the logics we need in that case to handle the tags. And this is it. It's smart enough to build and create a tag if it doesn't exist. This is really cool. So now the problem is, in the first place, we didn't want to have an error for duplicated tags. And this might happen if we submit again the same tag. So instead, we can use autocompletion. So users just type few letters and they see what already exists or not. So I propose this, but you can find any other libraries. You just need to set it in your header, somewhere in your template, and to put it in the input field. So in that case, we should have a form sim for the tags type. So it uses this model. But there is another way to do it, and I'll show you. So you see an example of how can be useful, this finish view method, to override the finish view of the choice type. And so we just use the vars on the view to add the class and the data list. The view vars choices is defined as the choice type, so we just get it by inheritance, and we can implode it. So just as simple as that. No need for form sim. And it's done. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Je crois que c'est intriqué.
Hello.
Hello.
What version of Symfony does all of that work on? Is that after 2.8 or?
2.7, except for the empty data as empty string for the text type.
I implemented
2.7 is good.
something similar to that in a prior version. It was actually a lot harder. I was quite close, but
before 2.7, we didn't have the choice loader interface, so we cannot do this for that reason.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you all. I guess you can have a couple of questions. Thank you.